In this case between the President Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, and the man who came out to say Femi Gbajabiamila collected money from him to set up a government organization. The man's name is Adeniyi Adeyemi Matthew. You see, my first interest in this case is this, right? First things first, I no one here say that man died mysteriously. That's the first thing. I no one here say Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi Matthew died mysteriously. We don't want to hear that.
There are stories that sound too unbelievable to be true. This is one of them. Imagine someone walks into government offices claiming to be the Director General of a presidential agency. He attends meetings. He writes official letters. He meets diplomats. He reportedly operates from the office space inside the Federal Secretariat. Government institutions communicate with him. Then one day, the presidency says the agency never existed. The Director General is arrested, and suddenly the question isn't just who he is. It's how an entire system appeared to accept him. Tonight, we are looking at one of Nigeria's most controversial political stories, not to decide who is guilty, but to understand how we got here. Who are the two men at the center of this story? On one side is Femi Gbajabiamila, the Chief of Staff to President Bola Tinubu and former Speaker of the House of Representatives. As Chief of Staff, he occupies one of the most influential offices in Nigeria. Documents, appointments, and presidential coordination often pass through his office. On the other side is Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi Matthew. He introduced himself as the Director General of the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, or PFIPC. According to him, the agency was created to attract foreign intervention, funding, and investment into Nigeria. But according to the presidency, PFIPC never legally existed. So how did these two stories collide?
Femi is accused of operating a fictitious government agency, forging official documents, and deceiving several government institutions. Hearing in the case before a federal high court in Abuja is scheduled for July 27th. Adeyemi is charged with conspiracy, impersonation, and forgery.
The presidency says Prince Adeyemi forged appointment documents bearing the signature of the Chief of Staff. According to the official statement, Gbajabiamila discovered the alleged forgery and petitioned security agencies. Investigators allege that Adeyemi used those documents to present himself as the head of a non-existent agency. He has since been charged with offenses including forgery, impersonation, and obtaining by false pretense. If the government account is accurate, this would represent one of the boldest cases of alleged impersonation in recent Nigeria's history. But here is where things become more complicated.
Meritoriously served for good 20 years and rose from minority leader, majority leader, and then speaker for good 4 years. I mean, he rose to be the number 4 citizen of Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the question becomes unaffordable. At what point in the process did reference to non-existent agency allegedly enter the official record? And if that are indeed present in an official documentation, what that implies about the integrity of the process that produced and approved those documents? For President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to assented his signature to a budget that includes a non-existent agency according to his Chief of Staff is an embarrassment to this advocating government. My distinguished media practitioner, when the question persists regarding administrative process, budget lines, and institutional communication allegedly connected to this agency, if it doesn't exist, the same acclaimed non-existent agency has domiciliary, pounds, and treasury single account, all domiciled in the Central Bank of Nigeria. So what Chief of Staff is telling Nigeria is that the CBN governor, with his 4 deputies, 16 capable directors, and over 5,300 staffs are clueless.
If PFIPC never existed, how did it reportedly secure office space? How did official-looking correspondence circulate? Why did diplomats reportedly attend meetings connected to the agency? How did multiple institutions appear to recognize it? Were government officials deceived by convincing forged documents, or were verification systems simply not robust enough? These questions don't prove wrongdoing by anyone, but they are questions many Nigerians have been asking, because the deeper this story goes, the harder it becomes to explain with single sentence. Prince Adeyemi rejects the allegations completely. He insists his appointment was genuine. He says PFIPC was a legitimate government initiative. He also alleges that senior government officials, including the chief of staff, were aware of the agency and that its prosecution followed a breakdown in relationships. Those allegations have been publicly denied by the presidency, and at the time of this video, they have not been proven in court. That distinction matters because allegations are not evidence.
That was why when he refused to give him that money, he said, who are you to challenge me? Do you know that I'm the one that created you and that ministry? You must give me that money. And the man resisted.
And so, they say it's non-existent.
Yeah. So the man resisted. He thought that the man would be a pushover. You know, only God knows what I had been doing with other people like that. The man said, no, I can't do that. And that was it. So for him to disobey with Gbajabiamila is an affront. And so without even thinking, what we call emotional intelligence, he didn't have it. Gbajabiamila thought that when he go on air and talk, people will say, this man, you know, EFCC kill him and all that. He didn't know that the man is ahead of them. He had all the documents, all the evidence, and he blew it up open. That was where Gbajabiamila got shocked and started fighting for his own life. That is just the truth.
This is where the conversation becomes politically sensitive. The connection between Gbajabiamila and Adeyemi is at the center of this case because the dispute appointment document allegedly carried the chief of staff's signature. Gbajabiamila says the documents were forged. Adeyemi says the documents were genuine. At the heart of the dispute is a simple but highly important question. Did someone successfully impersonate the presidency, or is there information that has not yet been fully explained to the public? As the controversy grows, several organizations and political groups have called for an independent investigation. Their argument isn't necessarily that anyone is guilty. The argument is that public confidence requires an investigation that examines every document, every approval process, and every institutional failure without fear or favor. Some groups have also suggested that the chief of staff should temporarily step aside while such an investigation is conducted. Others reject that idea, arguing that criminal charges are already before the court and due process should be allowed to take its course. Regardless of where you stand, the existence of these calls reflects how significant this controversy has become. Maybe the biggest issue isn't even Prince Adeyemi. Maybe it isn't Femi Gbajabiamila. Maybe it's the system itself. Because if the presidency is right, then one individual allegedly convinced multiple government institutions that he led a presidential agency. That would expose serious weaknesses in document verification and institutional oversight. But if Adeyemi's claim contains elements that can be substantiated, then Nigerians deserve a full explanation of how the agency operated and why it was later dissolved. Either possibilities raise difficult questions. What do you think? Was this an extraordinary case of alleged impersonation, or does this story leave important questions unanswered? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.